Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. This is episode number 56. Thank you to everyone who tunes in on a regular basis, either on Facebook or YouTube, to listen to our guest each week, or to watch what they're doing, because you can visually see it as well. And as you know, the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast is brought to you by the Hare Krishna Project, which is a national initiative to share Krishna consciousness, to share the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada, the Acharyas, with an audience, with any audience that wants to listen to it. We're very passionate about Krishna consciousness. And our guest this week is coming to us all the way from, well, you'll see in a moment her accent. She's not necessarily from Britain, but she is coming to us this week from Bromley in South London, which is a beautiful part of the world. Hare Krishna, Dora.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, Dora, for being our guest on this week's edition of the podcast. So let's just start maybe with you telling us a bit about you and where you're from.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. So I'm very happy to be on the podcast, so I'm very happy you invited me as well. So about me, so I come from France. I think you can hear from my accent that I come from France, and I'm 23 years old.
So young, very young.
So I came. I live in a temple. I live in a temple in London, in Expand the Bliss Temple, London. And since 6 months, I joined the temple 6 months ago. I came to the UK as well 6 months ago, and I joined Krishna Consciousness. Maybe I first met the devotees 1 year ago.
Wow.
And yeah.
Did you meet the devotees in France or in the UK?
Yeah, I met them in France. Yeah.
Wow. So which city are you from? Which part of France?
So it's a very small city called Saint-Étienne, but it's near to Lyon. Maybe you've heard of Lyon.
I've heard of Lyon. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a small city called Saint-Étienne.
So you met the devotees just 12 months ago.
Yeah.
In France.
Yeah.
And now 12 months later, you're living in a Hare Krishna temple in London.
Yeah.
So without kind of, you can only share what you want to share. But so what were you doing in your life before you met the Krishna devotees? What were you doing in France?
Yeah. So I was studying naturopathy. It's natural medicine, and I was studying for 3 years. And before that, I was I finished my, I graduated from high school, and then I was traveling a little bit, and then I decided to start my studies, and I decided to choose naturopathy because I was interested in. I was interested in healing people. And I was interested by the spiritual aspect of healing, but because I couldn't find something, spiritual to heal, so I decided to be rational and study naturopathy. But I was not interested in healing the body, really. I was, because everything is, it's linked to the body and the spirits, but I was more interested in healing people, but spiritually healing them, and that was my idea at the time. But
So did you have a religious or a spiritual upbringing? Your parents or your carers, are they religious in any way?
Yeah, my parents, they are Muslim, but I never. When I was younger, I was Muslim, I can say, but I was never really following or studying the scriptures or the teachings, or I believe that God was present with us, but I didn't believe that God has a religion. I never believed that God was Muslim or Christian, or I was always questioning my parents about that because it made no sense at the time. Yeah.
That was also one of the things that attracted me to Vaishnavism, to Krishna consciousness, is that God, God isn't Hindu or Muslim or Sikh, and the soul isn't Hindu or Muslim or Sikh or Jewish or Brahma Kumari or whatever. The soul is the soul. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that. So you met the devotees in France 1 year ago. Were they dancing in the streets? What were they doing?
I actually had a book. I actually had the Bhagavad Gita, and it was like a bad day. It was a bad day for me. And I met this devotee, Alison Mataji, and we met very quickly. It was very quick, but we felt like when we met, we hugged each other, and she told me this book is about meditation and yoga, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what I need. Give me the book, I give you a donation, and then she invited me for the program, and yeah, this is the first meeting with the devotees. It was very powerful.
Mm. Fascinating. And I don't know. I think for what you and I met a couple of weeks ago at Gora Panima. I came to the Bliss Temple for the festivities, and for some reason I assumed that you were older. I don't know, not that you look particularly older. I just made that assumption. And so you kind of fall into that kind of category with a lot of people, that they at a young age they're looking for kind of spiritual answers to the things going on in our lives. I first went to a Hare Krishna temple when I was 20, a long time ago, and so yeah, when we're kind of younger in life, we're looking for those kind of spiritual answers. So fast forward 12 months, you're now at the Bliss Temple in South London. So for any viewers or listeners that are not aware of Bliss, Bliss stands for the Bhaktivedanta Lives in Sound Society, and it's an organization that promotes the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. It's probably the best way to explain it. And if you go to the Bliss Temple, as I did for Gora Panima a few weeks ago, you will experience a program in the temple. For example, if you go to Guru Arti or whatever, a program as Srila Prabhupada intended. You sing the same devotional songs and the spiritual songs and things. So I guess I'm keen to know how you kind of made it. I mean, I don't mean literally, but metaphorically. How did you get to the Bliss Temple in South London?
I had the first time I met the devotees, and I came because I was already in London. But I came to a Sunday Love Feast, and just after the class, I didn't know anything about the devotees. They just invited me, and I was okay, let me go and see. And just after the class that Pujit Prabhu made, I was convinced by the message. I was convinced that by his realizations of Prabhupada, and I felt that he was connected to Prabhupada, and that he could give the right message of Prabhupada. And that was very, I was convinced, like one class was enough to, I was already thinking, okay, how can I join this temple? Because, like there are only brahmacharis. So I was thinking, this is a brahmachari ashram. So I was, just wondering, how can I join? And, I was like very shy to ask, about, to join the temple, but this is how it started.
So just so I can piece things together in my head, you discovered Krishna consciousness before you met the Bliss devotees?
Yes.
And you were searching for, because you said something just then that was quite key. You said I think you said that you were you were looking for somebody who was properly presenting, or who could present the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. I think you just said something similar to that.
Yeah, of course I was looking for that, and I was looking for that, and this is what I felt when I met Purajit Prabhu. Before that, the devotees who brought me to Krishna Consciousness, they had the same energy as Purajit Prabhu, you know, giving the essence of Prabhupada. And so it's kind of the same. Yeah.
Okay. So what is it about Krishna consciousness that appeals to you? Because, you know, you had a Muslim upbringing. I was kind of raised in the Methodist Church, which is a kind of a non-conformist form of Protestant Christianity. So what was it? I mean, why did your cultural upbringing not satisfy your spiritual needs? What was it about Krishna consciousness that particularly attracted you?
I was definitely looking for the science of the soul. When I was like studying, trying to, you know, discover about spirituality and about, you know, what was the goal of life, I was very interested by the soul. I wanted to know how the soul, you know, the science of the soul. This is like, I was really looking for that. And when I first went to my first Sunday love feast with the devotees in France, Bhakta Jad, he could explain the philosophy, very, very nicely. And when I first met them, I was like, okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is, I had any questions that I had, they could answer my questions. So, and like Krishna knows that I had so many questions. I mean, we all have a lot of questions, and this is what, the philosophy first attracted me, and then I had also, I went on, so I was associating with the devotees, and we went on book distribution. And the first time I distributed books, I was like, okay, I never experienced that in my life. And that was the best feeling ever, because I felt, you know, we always want to be useful. We want to be useful. And I felt useful. I felt that I was doing something, you know, for the whole world, for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's that kind of strong conviction, isn't it? Spiritual, religious conviction that we found truth or something that's true, and something that is good news, and we want to share it with others. Something that you're kind of enthusiastic about. So you, we talked a bit about Bliss, the Bhaktivedanta Lives in Science Society. I first discovered Bliss, must be almost 3 years ago. I was doing research for a book, looking at the diversity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement in the UK, and a man in Birmingham, of all people, told me about Bliss. Ironically, he might be listening now, but that man in Birmingham is actually not practicing Krishna conscious anymore. But he told me about Bliss. He was at the time, he wasn't in Bliss. He was in a different group, completely different. Yeah. But he told me about Bliss, and I managed to track down Maitreya Prabhu, and we met in a park in London, and we spent 2 or 3 hours talking about Krishna consciousness and bliss and the story of bliss. And then, of course, one of the things that's really impressed me about Bliss is your social media activities. They are hugely successful. So tell me, let's talk a bit about what is it like to be a part of Bliss. You live in a temple. Temple is kind of an ashram environment. What is it? Yeah, so what is it like being a part of the Bliss family?
Being a part of the Bliss family feels really like family. First of all, it's really like it's a family atmosphere. It's not because it's not a big ashram as well. It's not a big temple, so all the devotees, we are very close to each other, and we can. So it really feels like a family. And what was your questions exactly? Like, how does it
What is it
feel?
like? What is it like to be a part of the Bliss family?
Yes.
You're in a very active temple, and the Bliss community is, it's very successful, and I mean that in different ways. So what is it like to be a part of that community? I mean, for example, it's Saturday. We're recording this on a Saturday. It goes out on a Friday night. You've probably had a very busy week. We've had to reschedule this podcast a few times because you're so busy, right? But you're still smiling. Why are you still smiling? What is it about the Bliss family or community that enthuses you?
Well, we are in bliss. First of all, you can feel the bliss, but it's very. I mean, we are always engaged, and I think that's why it feels very. You feel very good in the temple because we are always engaged, and Purjit Prabhu, he knows exactly how to engage us as well in our, in the things that we are good at, and it's always there is a. I mean, the Bliss Mission is a big, like you can only be enthused if you think of the Bliss Mission, because there is, always strategies to expand. There is, it's like very good vibes. Everyone is good vibes. Everyone is very funny and kind, and like I think, yeah, like everyone takes care of everyone, and Purjit Prabhu, he can guide us very nicely, so we can, yeah, that's why it's, that's why it's very blissful.
No. Well, I was going to say no
You
pun
don't understand,
intended,
like,
but
yeah.
definitely pun intended. So to our listeners and viewers who are wondering, so Dora's mentioned an individual called Purujit a few times. To hear Purujit's story, go to podcast number 50. So this is podcast number 56. So 6 episodes ago, I sat down, not literally, but I sat down with Purujit to talk about him and his story, and because he's a very dynamic individual. Obviously, nothing happens without Krishna and Srila Prabhupada's say so, but Purujit is certainly enthusiastic about taking the mission of Srila Prabhupada forward. And so to hear his story, go to podcast number 50, which is either on YouTube or Facebook. You will find it. So Dora, what kind of so you mentioned that Purujit likes to engage devotees in what they're good at. So what are you enthusiastic about? What are your particular services around the Bliss community?
My favorite service is book distribution. We go on books every day. We have, our Sankirtan leader, Dhananjaya. You met him also for Guru Purnima, and he's very good at, leading the devotees on Sankirtan. So this is my favorite part of the day.
So tell me about that book distribution. So you're out in London, yeah, distributing books every day. And I mean, for me, it's kind of when you start something new, there's that kind of comfort zone to kind of break through, isn't there? There's that kind of feeling of nervousness. What tips would you give to people who want to do book distribution in terms of how to do it successfully?
Yeah, in London or just in general?
Both. If you think the answer is different.
Yeah. I'd say in London, central London during winter is not so good because people are cold and they don't want to stop, and it's kind of difficult. So that's why we were not going to central London during winter, like when it was too cold. We would go to like East Ham, where many Indians are here, because the Indians, they are already Krishna conscious. So the Westerners, they don't really know. about Krishna, so they are not so interested. So like that's the tip about London. And but book distribution in general, I think, is people respond to your enthusiasm. They respond to they also, because it's the material world and everyone wants to be Krishna, they also like when you flatter, can I say that, flatter them? Yeah, it's like, so like, this is how I do it, but I always say that I like their style, I like their energy, and I try to, I mean, it's always ecstatic, maybe not always, but most of the time it's very ecstatic. So we have a lot of energy, and we can just, yeah, like people, they stop to the energy that you put in your, in your distribution. And
so you're distributing devotional books every day.
Yeah.
How many books do you personally distribute every day?
Oh, that I don't know.
Are you not keeping like track or record or something? Or?
No, we don't do that, because there is no scores, because the devotees, there is like scores of books distributed. We don't do that. We don't really
that might be better. That might be better actually, because people get a bit too competitive, don't they? Okay, so you're saying it's important to engage with people when doing book distribution, and generally, how receptive are people? I mean, London is a big city in the UK. Generally, people in London are quite liberal, in the sense that compared to other parts of the UK, and compared in the sense that they accept people in terms of however they dress or whatever their religion is. People don't really mind. People are a bit more liberal. So do you think that helps in terms of being in the capital city? Is that, and I've walked through London wearing a dhoti and people don't really care. But if I walk through a rural village in Wiltshire's a county in the southern part of England, people will stare at me like I'm an alien or something, So, so do you think that helps being in London?
Yeah, I think that helps a lot, and I think but also like the Hare Krishnas, they are like well known in London, so most of the people, they know who we are, and they kind of know what we are doing, and they appreciate their Hare Krishna as well. So it's good, yeah. And I mean, like as you said, people in London, they are very liberal, and I think they like the fact that we wear devotional clothes as well. I think they can be attracted to that. And I mean, Prabhupada, he says that we should wear devotional clothes because it attracts people, and they can, because like, no, I mean, people, they wear different clothes in London, but most of them are wearing black as well. It's like not so colorful, and so you put a dhoti or a sari, and so you became, yeah. So,
and I particularly think there's something very visually appealing about seeing Westerners in particularly saffron dhotis. And I was talking to someone else the other day about the success of Bliss's social media platform. So you've got a really successful Facebook page, which is growing at a rate that a lot of businesses would really envy. I mean, you're probably gaining 1,000 new followers every 3 weeks, which, as I say, businesses would really crave that type of following. And I was talking to a devotee about this the other day, and her response was, people just like to see Westerners in saffron dhotis. There's something very appealing about it. And it reminded me of the story of back in 1967, I think it was, 68, when those devotees from America came to London. The six Prabhupada disciples came to London to try and establish a devotional community in London, to bring Krishna consciousness to London and open a temple for Prabhupada. And they were Grihastas, so actually they should have been wearing, and largely were wearing, white. But they decided they wanted to start wearing saffron because people would be more attracted to it. And I'm going to admit, I don't remember fully the details of Prabhupada's response, but it was allowed to carry on. It was permissible. They were allowed to wear saffron, even though they were Grihastas, because people were attracted to the color. And I think generally in our Western perception, if you see someone wearing saffron, it's linked with kind of Indian spirituality. You know, people think of Buddhist monks.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm just going to make this comment. Some listeners and viewers might disagree with this. White might be associated with maybe a Muslim man, or because Muslim men will wear white. And that's just a description. People can disagree with my possible interpretation of that meaning, but so there's certainly something very appealing with wearing saffron. And I think one of your videos on Facebook, or one of the Bliss videos the other day, I think it had 250,000 views in 3 days.
Which one?
It was one of the Harinams. It's the Harinam films. I mean, 250,000 views is massive. And my understanding of kind of iPhones and laptops and devices is that Facebook will only record one view per phone. So even if I looked at the video 1,000 times on this phone, I think it only records one view, or it's one kind of device. I could be completely wrong. So you're very successful at that. So if somebody was to come and stay at the Bliss Temple, what is an average stay at the Bliss Temple from start to finish? What kind of things happen?
So we wake up, we start the program at 4:30, like the morning program, and we start chanting our rounds at 5:20, 5:15, and at 7:15 we have another program. You know, the other program. Then we have like kirtan, and then we have a class, Bhagavatam class. Then we have prasad. Then everyone does. I mean, this is the temple program. And then everyone does, his service. Everyone has like these kinds of services. And then it depends on the days, but sometimes we manage to go on books at 12, sometimes at 1, sometimes at 2 when we are very late. And then we come back for the Bhagavad Gita class, which starts at 6:30. And then we take hot milk in the evening, and I try to go to bed at 8. The Prabhus, they go to bed later. This is our.
So what time do you get up in the morning?
It depends. I'm sometimes at 3, sometimes when I'm very tired at 4. But I try to wake up at 3 and or 3:30, and yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, and it can be a real challenge. I've stayed in temples before, and I quickly came to the conclusion that I wasn't meant to be a brahmachari or live in an ashram, because I like getting up early, but 3 o'clock's a bit too early for me, actually. Okay, so it's kind of a standard temple life. People will come and they will experience a program in the morning as prescribed by Srila Prabhupada, and you'll do daily seva and services kind of throughout the day. And you've kind of alluded to it already. You're the only woman living at the temple.
Yeah.
And how is that kind of living with or in the same building as men? I mean, because a year ago you didn't know them, and now you're serving with them. How is that? How's that going?
It's going very, very good. It's very good. And at the first, when I first, I was not too sure. I was thinking, no, you can't live with brahmacharis. I had kind of my ideas of what Krishna Consciousness was, and that that you shouldn't mix brahmacharis, brahmacharinis, and everything. And then Project Prabhu, he showed me that. In the early days, they started the movement like this. There was only one Mataji and I don't know, 5 brahmacharis, So I was, when I first met them, I was thinking, no, like you can associate with them on books, you can, you know, go to the classes and everything, but you cannot live in a temple with them. And it's working very well. I mean, there is, yeah, it's like they are my brothers. So yeah, it's very well. It's like there's no problem.
Well, when I came to visit the temple for Guru Purnima, I certainly felt that kind of family environment, and you were all kind of working together to distribute prasadam, to serve at the book table. To when I arrived, I think 2 hours before the program started, just to meet the devotees. And a lot of you were in the temple room decorating, you know, getting ready for the festival, and yeah, there was certainly that very strong family environment, what I like. And I haven't been to every Hare Krishna temple in the UK, but I've been to a lot of them. And my personal preference is for much smaller temples, where there's that kind of intimate community feeling, where you know everybody by name. You know, I personally don't have a preference for bigger temples where you can be going there for 10 years and people still don't talk to you. Which unfortunately does happen. So I really like that. And also you're in a good location in terms of uh, I don't just mean in London, particularly in South London. You know, there's only one other. So London is a city with 8 million people. Okay. And there's only one other Hare Krishna temple in South London. And you know, with the best will in the world, even if 1,000 people were attending each temple, which would be wonderful, there's still millions that aren't. So I don't like this whole, some devotion, some Hare Krishna groups are like this. They have this kind of territory mentality. That's our territory. That's our territory. But for me, you know, there's millions of people. I said this to Purujit a couple of months ago. You know, there's 68 million people in the UK. If 1 million of those people attended a Hare Krishna temple every week, okay, the 67 million that still aren't. So there's a lot of work to do.
Oh yeah.
And you're in London, which is an ideal place to kind of share the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. So what are your plans for the future? You know, in terms of how long will you be staying at the temple, and what kind of things do you want to do in later years?
Yeah. So I think that I can't really have a plan, because Krishna, he has a plan for me, and I wish I could, you know, decide of like what my life would be and how I would like to organize it. But I can still wish, but not plan and expect anything. But I'm planning on staying in London I'm planning on staying in the Bliss Temple, because you know we want to make a Bliss Temple in France, in Tunisia. My background is from Tunisia. We want to expand the Bliss around the world. So I don't know. I'm interested by a lot of countries to do a Bliss Temple or live in a Bliss Temple, and you know, serve with the Bliss devotees. So my plan, my plan for now is to, I have no plan really. My plan is to, yes, stay in the temple and maybe, yeah, do a Bliss France. Like we are, maybe Bliss France would be nice. But yeah, for now, I think I have no precise plan. It's very difficult to say that I have a plan. Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. I think often in the material world we have these big plans. What's that expression? Man proposes, God disposes. We can have all these grand plans, but unless it's kind of Krishna's will for us, they largely just don't happen. And often, or always, if we can, it's not easy. Just need to try and surrender to Krishna, and you know, allow allow Krishna's will to be done. And that's what we need to be kind of tuned into. And yes, I was kind of aware of Bliss's expansion plans. I mean, you've got, I keep going on about the social media, but you've got your temple has also grown quite quickly in London. You know, you've got a large number of brahmacharis there. And again, without naming other mats or sanghas, there are most Hare Krishna temples in the UK do not have the same number of brahmacharis that Bliss does. And they would jump at the chance of having that many full-time brahmachari or brahmacharini devotees in the temple that could do these kind of full-time services like book distribution and prasadam distribution. I hate to use the word, but they're kind of, there would be an envy, not in a mean way, but that's kind of could be envious to have all those wonderful devotees there. Okay, we've kind of got through the questions quite quickly, which is fab. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you. You're out, I think, on Harinam today.
Yeah.
Out chanting. Are you doing book distribution as well?
I don't know, what time is it?
It's at the moment it's 1:45. We're recording this 1:45.
Yeah, maybe the Prabhus are going on book distribution, but I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I'm not too sure because we go quite early, maybe for an hour, but yeah.
Okay. So is there anything else you particularly want to share with us that you wanted to kind of share today on the podcast that I haven't touched on or haven't asked you about?
Well, I don't know.
What was really good was that the first question about you and your background, you gave a very brief answer to that, and you went straight to talking about Krishna consciousness, which kind of, oh wow, we've just cut out 10 minutes already. A lot of people like to talk about themselves. Okay. Well, Dora, it's been really good to have you on the podcast this week. I really appreciate your time. And what I do when this podcast is broadcast, I'll put links to the Expand the Bliss Facebook page, website. People can tune in and see all these videos that getting like a million views, you know, and they can share it with their friends kind of around the world. So we'll just say goodbye to everybody listening and watching at home, and then you and I can have a very brief debrief after. So a massive thank you to Dora for being our guest on this week's edition. It's great to have you on the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you can put a positive comment. You can like, love, or care for it if you're listening to it on Facebook. And please do share the link with your friends and your family and other kind of devotional groups. And if you do want to be a guest on a future edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast, please do message the Hare Krishna Project page, and we will work on scheduling you in at some point this year to do that broadcast. So until next week, we'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.